times when you almost feel like something has been studied to death. I think the studies all show that consolidating the services in one method or another makes sense financially. I think a lot of our citizens is going to be a hard sell in some of the communities because they're afraid of the unknown. Port Orange has been lucky enough to have the RCC, and it's worked well with us and with our neighboring cities. And I can't be any more happy with the way that that's worked. I would think that if we did do something, I think there's ways that it can be handled, but I'm not sure of what would be the best way. I think the RCC has worked very well. I'm concerned about if you let a particular government take over the control of it, if that's going to be the answer, or if that's going to cause even more friction. But working like the RCC in some model that also has more, maybe the ambulance service built into it, might be a way to go. I think we need to look more into not whether or not it's might be cost feasible. I think it would be, but I think there's a lot of logistical ends of it that have got to be worked out. How it's going to be handled and what the makeup of it would be. I don't think anybody's going to want to lower a level of service, and at the one time that was the critical thing that was driving it, because Port Orange was one of not everybody had the ALS service. It was very scattered, and it was, it was. Don't make sure I don't lose my level of service. And it seems like I've sat through 3 or 4 of these. Several of us have. So it's something I would like to see worked out, but maybe it not just saying, well, would it work, but how could it work?
And I think at an event, I don't think people are inventorying what's on the shirt or what's on the side of the vehicle. They're only looking at the results.
You're absolutely correct.
The results. That's all they're looking at. George?
Yeah, did I understand you to say that there's no volunteer firefighters anymore in the county?
No, I don't think so.
There's very few. There's none at that station.
Oh, at that station you were
Right.
saying.
Right.
And
That's a 3-person career ALS company.
what about other cities? Do they have volunteer firefighters?
Edgewater has some. There are some in the county, yes.
Well, they looked at, when I worked for the city of Pittsburgh Fire Department, they looked at consolidating the county and go to a countywide fire department. The big problem was all the suburbs had volunteers in them, and then people absolutely didn't want it because they knew they'd have to pay more, And some of our own men used to volunteer. People in Pittsburgh had to pay for fire service. Then they'd go out and they'd volunteer in the suburbs. And I said to them, why are you doing this? And they said, they can't afford it out there. And I said, you mean the poor people in Pittsburgh that are on welfare and Social Security can afford it? And they can't? I said, bull crap. I said, you'd quit doing it, you'd see how fast they'd pay for a paid fire department. But at any rate, though, the big problem I see is you're not certain when an ambulance is going to show up. We know the fire trucks are in the fire stations. The ambulances, like they said in their column, they move them around. They could be almost anywhere. That's any given time. They may only have 8 ambulances from Flagler to Brevard County. That's a big area to cover. And if they get an accident up on I-95, they'll have 2 or 3 ambulances up there. Now they even have less. So that's the only thing I see. You don't put a price on lives. And if you're going to cause somebody to lose their life because they didn't get ALS service from Port Orange, and usually they're the first ones to show up on the scene. Most people will tell you that when they've called for an ambulance, they've gotten a fire truck. And that's why both of them show up. Do we need 6 pumpers in Port Orange? We have to by the standards, don't we, to meet the standards?
Well, we have 5, we should have 6.
I mean, we're in the fire business. We don't have to be in the ambulance business. But the fact is, as far as our people are concerned, we need to be in the ambulance business because you're just not going to have it. And like I hear from even our county chairman, you know, he always cries about Ponce Inlet not having an ambulance down there. He says it's coming a long ways. He says, and our people are in deep trouble down there. But if there's a way to work it out where you could have enough ambulances showing up, yes, maybe you don't need all them. And I've been critical in the past about this closest unit response, and you know I have, because I think we got some of the best firefighters and some of the best trained firefighters and the best and the most in this area, and we're carrying them when they only have one pumper down at South Daytona, or they don't even have firefighters in Daytona Beach Shores, where they use their police to fight fires. And I think this all has to be looked into, and the people have to be made aware of what they're getting if they do reduce service, and they do reduce it. They don't understand why there is a fire truck shows up at emergencies, you know, and why they have an ambulance there and why they have a police car there. But 9 times out of 10, they're in service. If a fire comes in, they can cut themselves loose really quick. So they're still in service. They got their clothes. They got everything they need to respond to a fire. That's all I'm going to say, Chief.
What if you look over the cost? It's how you're going to perform at the product. Unless you change the methodology, really consolidation doesn't give you much of anything, in my opinion. It's how you're going to do the services. I think I think we've discussed a lot of it a lot of different ways. You know, and if you take what established the firefighters in the beginning and 24/7 and that kind of thing, what level of service does the citizens want, and what are they willing to pay for? It's back to they don't want to pay, but they want the services. So I think we have to look at everything we can do. There's no question about efficiency. There's always a better way to do the thing, and I think we just have to look at it. I think you've talked about it. I've listened to Mike Hurst. I've read a lot of data, been part of it. But if you're going to do it, you better go from ground zero and start over. But the bottom line is you better go to the end and say this is the level of service that you want and work backwards. That's what you want, whether you're fighting fires or you respond to medical. You don't start from here to go there. You start from there and come backwards.
Correct.
That's how you're going to get there. You can't get from here because I don't think it works. But you better know what the level of service that you want and attach the value to it and work back into that model, because that's what you're going to get, whether you have 6 pumpers or so many transports or whatever you do. I agree. If you look at what we do, the majority of what we do is medical, you know. But I mean, you know, there's got to be a better way. Maybe there is. There's got to be. I don't know what it is. I think all of us have studied it, but I think we need to address it. I think what's going to happen, and we're there, is if you look at what's the shrinking ability to get revenue is getting worse and worse. You're passing that burden to the businesses, and the businesses are going to fail because it's disproportional from the residents. The residents are complaining, but they're not the people that's picking up the majority of the tab. It just isn't there. So one more time, Chief, anything else you want to say?
Just a little historical perspective. In 1968, the fire service started paramedic ambulance service in Miami and Los Angeles, and it's been in the fire service since 1968. Ambulance